Good evening and welcome to the 10th annual Penn Prime Branding Panel. We are so grateful you could join us for this special milestone event. For those of you who haven't met me yet, my name is Federica Ro, and I have the privilege of serving as the president of the Penn State Prime, as well as being a senior marketing student here at SMEO. Prime was founded over 10 years ago by Bailey Loja, Grace Desjardins, and Casey Frobisher, alongside Gus Colangelo and his consulting course. Since then, 10 executive boards have carried on their vision, working hard to create opportunities like tonight's branding panel. I am proud to continue that legacy with this year's board. About 7 months ago, the Prime Executive Board and I began brainstorming ideas for this event. When we realized it would be the 10th anniversary, we knew it had to be celebrated in a big way. We drafted a proposal, shared it with Timmy and Professor Coupland, and from that moment on, we've been working every single week to bring this vision to life. This evening, you'll hear from our incredible panelists, guided by our moderator, Timmy Gard. Afterwards, we'll open the floor for questions, so please write those questions down. To conclude the night, we'll enjoy a reception where you'll have the chance to connect further with the panelists. Before we begin, a quick note of housekeeping. We will be sharing the attendance code as well as some QR code for feedback. So please make sure to look at those in the future. And now, it is my honor to introduce Corey Phelps, the John and Karen Arnold Dean of the SMEO College of Business, who will share a few opening remarks.
All right, good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing tonight? Anybody here this morning for the AI panel that we had? Raise your hand if you were here. We have a few people that were here this morning. So I'm having a bit of a deja vu moment. I was up here once before. It's my second time. Luckily, I'm not sitting where these folks are sitting. There's a reason that I'm not sitting where they're sitting. I'm not a marketing guy. I'm not a branding guy. I'm an economist by training. I'm a strategy professor, so I would be way out of my lane if I was up here on the panel. But there is something that I do want to share with you from my perspective about branding, coming at it strictly from a strategy viewpoint. So economists, we love to do thought experiments, right? Because we love to ask people to think about what could have happened but didn't. So what I want you to do is just play along with me for a second here. I want you to do a thought experiment. And the thought experiment is the following. I want you to imagine two products, identical in every way that you can tell. Look, feel, touch, performance, etc. So identical. But on one product, there is a brand name that is placed on it that you know, you love, you adore, you value. And on the other one, it's a brand name that you've never heard of. So the thought experiment is this. Are you willing to pay more for the one that has the logo of the brand that you know, love, care, and value versus the one that you don't? Now, you don't have to answer, but research shows is that most human beings are. Now, the way I know this is true in reality is for years, as a strategy professor, I used to teach a case study called the Cola Wars between Coke and Pepsi. And I bet in this audience there are people who are diehard Coke fans and diehard Pepsi fans. And if I asked you the question, can you taste the difference between Coke and Pepsi? Can you smell the difference? Can you see the difference? You would say with supreme confidence, of course I can. So for nearly 20 years, I put this to the test in my classroom. I would invite students that were diehard Coke experts, diehard Pepsi experts, and we would do blind taste tests. So I would have 4 cans in a bag, they would be wrapped and they would have numbers on them, and I would have a student pull the can out of the bag. So it was a blind taste test. So you didn't know what was in it. So they would get 3 cans, I'd pour them a little bit of can 1, 2, 3, and they'd have a little form, 1, 2, 3, and all you had to do was can 1, what was that? Was that Coke or Pepsi? I've done this for over 1,000 students, and here's what I can tell you. About 20% get it right. 80% of self-described experts on Coke versus Pepsi cannot taste the difference. Which means to me that maybe there's not much difference in terms of physical properties, the characteristics of the product. And maybe the reason that we pay more attention to one versus the other is it's something about the messaging and communication around that resonates with us. That over time, we start to say, I identify with this more strongly. And as a result of that, I will never buy Pepsi. I will never buy Coke. So long story short, brands matter in ways that strategists care about, in the sense that they can help organizations create economic value. So you're going to hear a lot more about the ins and outs of brand development, brand evolution from this panel, but I thought I'd start there. Now, we're here tonight because, as you just heard, it's the 10th anniversary of Prime and the Prime branding panel. And just about an hour ago, Timmy and I met in my office, and he was telling me once again the story behind the origin of this endeavor. And it started right here in the business building over a cup of coffee between Timmy and Jennifer Coupland. And where is Jennifer? There she is in the back there. And at the time, Timmy, you were on Alumni Society Board, right? Okay. So this idea sprang from there, and they concocted the idea, and Jennifer looked at Timmy and said, well, how are we going to do this? And your answer was, I have no clue. So, but they figured it out, obviously, which is why we're here 10 years later today for the 10th anniversary. Now, the other special thing about tonight is that this is the first time in 5 years that we are doing this in person. So COVID hit, so from 2020 to 2024, we did this online. So I'm very pleased that everyone's back here in the atrium. We're doing this in person. Now, during that time, in the 10 years that we've done this, we've had 60 panelists that have been involved in the brand panel that have represented 45 different companies, and we've reached over 2,000 students, faculty, and staff members. So we have people in the audience here tonight. We have people joining us on the live stream as well. And over the years, the students that have attended this program and this panel have helped launch careers in a large number of marketing and advertising agencies, but also in famous brands like Apple, American Eagle, Nestle, United Airlines, Nike, of course, Amazon, Twitter, and the list goes on and on and on. So before I get off the stage and turn things over to Timmy, I just want to take the opportunity to acknowledge some people. I've already talked about Timmy and Jennifer's role in this, but I do want to recognize the generous support of Phil and Gary Bolno, who are actually joining us tonight on live stream. And I do, again, want to also thank Timmy, not just for playing a role in the genesis of this, but also for providing financial support for this, because we can't do it without his support. Now, let's get on to the panel. I am super excited about this panel. We've got some great minds representing different industries, different businesses up here. So with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to the gentleman in sartorial splendor, Mr. Timmy Gard.
Corey, thank you. I just want to say I disagree with you with one thing. You do understand branding. You are building the Smeal brand, and you are creating your own personal brand, as we all can recognize from what you're doing, especially like on LinkedIn. So you're doing a wonderful job, so you do get it. 10th anniversary. It's pretty cool. If you see the photo that the Prime Group put up of all the faces, it's kind of remarkable. And the group worked really hard, and I really want to thank Federica as the president, and Paika, and Abasola, and Caitlin, and Tess, and Emily, Kara, and Lila. And also Kelsey Wertz, if you're here. Are you here? Can you stand up if you're here? Watching live. She was the very first Prime president 10 years ago, and she did a wonderful job. I also want to thank my partner in crime, Jen Copeland, for dealing with my crazy DNA 12 months out of the year, 7 days a week, 24/7, and Meg and her group, Dean Phelps, for supporting this initiative, and Andy Elder and the PR group. If anybody really understands what the PR group does here, it's fascinating. They put 3 stories out this week on the 10th anniversary, and it's all over the place, and Prime's done a wonderful job with that. And Adam and Nick, for your gracious support for providing beverages and the like and the food tonight. So the format's going to be, for the next 45 minutes, we're going to have a Q&A session, questions that I've developed and the students have also sent to us. After that, we're going to have a Q&A session. Now, there's a couple of rules with the Q&A session with the students. When you get up, you have to introduce yourself, tell us what city you're from, your favorite song, and who the question is directed to. And if you don't go through those 4 protocols, you're not going to ask the question. Then there's going to be reception, and then we have a survey for the students to fill out so we can help learn for number 11 and moving forward. As I always say every year, I'm in a regulated industry, so I always come up with a caveat. We're not going to talk about politics at all tonight. It's not going to happen. All right, so let's go. I want to introduce the panel. To the left of me, Michelle Harmon. Michelle, who's the Chief Marketing Officer of Revere AI. Can you give us 30 seconds and tell us about yourself?
Sure. Hi. Did I push?
Push the
I'm on. Okay, I'm on. Sorry about that. Lovely to meet you all. I'm a New York City girl. I've lived in New York since I graduated, basically from Penn State. I have worked across sports, entertainment, and media. And the last few years have been Chief Marketing Officer for a couple different companies. Some of them you would know, AccuWeather, Sponsor United in the sports and entertainment space, and now working more in AI with a company in brand management, as well as sports talent valuation. So if you're interested in those, happy to chat with you afterwards.
Thank you. Angel?
Yes, good evening, everyone. I graduated from Penn State 2007. It's a little eerie being in this building. I was here when it was brand new. It still looks fantastic, so they've done a great job keeping it in good shape. I am originally from New Jersey, still there. I work in New York City. I've been with L'Oreal for about a little over 4 years, and my role there is as AVP, the head of programmatic media. And especially with any nice marketing title, it has a nice snazzy ring to it, so I really like that for myself. But it's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to talking more.
Thanks, pal. Adam.
Thanks, Timmy. My name is Adam Klosky. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Red Bull. I've actually been with Red Bull for 18 years. I started when I was a student here as a junior. I got a student position, and I parlayed that into a lot of different roles. I lived in a lot of different places, but currently Vice President for the Northeast region. So based out of our meatpacking office in Manhattan, and born and raised in Pittsburgh. So now I'm in Jersey with Angel, but born and raised in Pittsburgh.
Thank you. And Nick.
Good evening. My name is Nick Bayer. I'm the founder and CEO of Saxby's, you guys may be familiar with right here. I'm also Timmy's neighbor. We live in the same building in Center City, so I can only imagine what you're dealing with, Jen, 24/7, 365, and preparing for this panel. You're an angel. It's an honor for me to be here. I've participated in a few of these over the last 10 years. Really briefly on Saxby's. So we're really an education company disguised as a coffee company. Our mission is to make life better by empowering and supporting the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs through experiential learning. So like this cafe here, which is run by 60 undergraduates from Penn State, who manage their peers, a global supply chain, their entire marketing plans, and the P&L, they're leveraging this amazing classroom experience, putting that into real life experiences, and then leveraging that into great careers, agnostic of industry or area of study. And so it's a point of pride for me. I'm a first-generation college student. My parents were teenagers when they had me. I always wanted to build a business that could make a difference in people's lives, and that's manifested through Saxby's.
Thanks, Nick. What's pretty cool is 3 out of the 4 panelists went to Smeal. Nick is kind of like proxied in because of his involvement.
I probably couldn't get in.
This is, either could I. I told that to Corey. And this is Nick's 5th panel. All right, let's go. 10 years, right? A lot of things happen in 10 years outside of world affairs, but we've had COVID. We've had new terms like influencers, omni-channel, programmatic, AI, meta, instant, apps. We've had a social media craze. We've had a flood of information coming from so many sources. And in the last 48 hours, we had an issue of freedom of speech. Nick, for the past 4 times you've been on Brand Panel, I've always asked you the first question. That's not going to happen today.
Great.
I'm cutting you a break. I'm going to ask the individual who introduced me to Jen Copeland many, many years ago. Michelle,
I'm in trouble.
what are some of the biggest changes you have seen in branding and marketing since 2015? B2B, B2C, B2BC, and personal branding.
Okay. How long do we have? I think the biggest change is the speed of change. When I think about all the new things that Timmy just mentioned, you could probably pick something that's happening every week. And I would think about your classes and how your teachers are thinking about what they need to prepare you for and what I want my whole team to be prepared for, right? So to me, I would have to say AI, right? For right now, it's top of mind. I happen to be working with 2 companies in this area, and I think it's a great opportunity for all of us, but it also has some great challenges and some great issues we all have to figure out, both for a brand. And so I'll give you one little story for one of the companies I'm working for. Do you have a second?
Go for it.
Okay. So this company is called Revere AI. I think it's on my name tag today. But what's interesting about it is they're taking a look at how brands are showing up across all the large language models. So think about ChatGPT and Gemini and Llama, and think about how Smeal's showing up, right? What is its competitors? What category do you consider? Is it undergraduate? Is the MBA program? And what are the consumers, if you will, saying about that brand? The sentiment, what's purchase criteria, why you want to show up, right? So think about all this. It's used to be SEO or keywords a few weeks ago, and now it's about how you're showing up there. And so that influences your PR plan, your content management plan, your event strategy. And so for all of us as marketing, I think it makes it super exciting, but it's a lot more complex.
Thank you. The panel will have an opportunity to answer some questions, but we're going to go some individually through here. Adam, we've moved or pivoted from innovation to AI in the last few months. How has technology helped with engaging brand love, or as you told me last week, can love?
Well, maybe first I should explain the brand love to can love piece. So I'm sure a lot of us can relate to this, but when you think of the marketing funnel, awareness at the very top and then consumption at the very bottom, you think of making an individual aware of your brand, then you have to be relevant to that consumer, and then you have to try it, and then you have to purchase it, use it frequently. So at Red Bull, we have so many people that are aware of our brand and love our brand. We track this sentiment. But at the bottom of the funnel, where the percentages are much lower, is the conversion rate of drinking it and drinking it frequently. So for us, it's great to have the top of the funnel very wide, very aware, but how do we convert that throughout the funnel? And I think, Timmy, the question was innovation or technology?
Technology.
I think with technology, you see it in everything that we have in our hands or what we have in our laps right now, what we use. We were joking that we didn't have smartphones when we were students. That wasn't something 15, 20 years ago. But on top of that, look at how individuals have become brands. I know that kind of goes back to the last question of what's changed, but it's when you see, it couldn't even be just an influencer, but an athlete, and how they are becoming larger than the team that they're on or the brands that they endorse, then they're creating their own product lines and their own portfolio of products.
Super. Angel, how do you balance maintaining a brand identity while adapting to new trends and evolving consumer expectations? How do you reinvent yourself, and when do you know it's time to reinvent your brand?
So as someone who works for a brand whose ambition is to create the beauty that moves the world, they've been doing it a long time. L'Oreal's been around 100+ years, and they have had to learn to reinvent themselves to be the #1 beauty company that they are today. Part of the reason for that is they have a library of amazing brands that don't say L'Oreal in them, but over the years, they've made a strategic effort as many big companies do, to see who's winning out there and be able to adopt the things that they're seeing while also setting the right trends, bringing in the right talent. And I think part of what goes to the constant reinvention is, frankly, a humility. You need to be humble enough to acknowledge that you're not winning 100% of the time. There are times where you are losing. There are times where new brands are coming out and starting to steal market share. And you need to look at yourself in a mirror as a company and say, what are the things we could be doing better? And I'm glad to say that L'Oreal has done that for many, many years and continues to do that. And it's exciting to be a part of the change that's ongoing. Part of that is a bedrock of consumer insights, data that drives that. There is a data deluge now, more so than there's ever been, but it also constantly resets the baseline in a way that allows you the chance to win in ways where maybe before you only had a few TV networks to be able to advertise with, and those who had the biggest budgets generally won. That's not the case anymore. And so companies like ours and many of the ones represented here are constantly having to have that humility perspective.
Thank you. You set me up perfectly. You must have looked at my questions, because my next question is to Nick, and it's a line that I use. He or she who has the data is king or queen. How are you using data analytics and insights to measure brand success, and how do you measure the results?
I always get
a lot
afraid.
Easier than the questions I've asked you the past 4 times.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Michelle, that you had to do the first. I pointed to Adam. Timmy has this many cards, and you have no idea what he's going to ask, so you are a brave soul. I'm learning a lot just listening to you guys, but I think for Saxby's and for any brand, as Corey said, I'm not a trained marketer or a trained brand guy. We fortunately have great marketers and branding folks at Saxby's, and I'm learning from them. But for us, we've realized that over time, people support authentic brands that they care about, that stand for something, and that they connect to, right? And so I know in my early years of entrepreneurship, I focused a lot on our competitors, too much, like what they stood for, what they were doing, and we tried to adjust to them versus authentically being us and communicating that really well. A big change for us. I mean, we've been around for 19 years, but with the marketing team and the capabilities that we have, the data that we now have at Saxby's, we realize our big competitive difference is that we are for students, by students. So when you go in our cafes, you'll see that tagline. I couldn't believe how many times I would go into our cafes 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and people were like, I like Saxby's because the people are friendly. I like Saxby's because I like the matcha. They weren't telling us why they liked us in the most endemic, important, differentiating way, which is that we're an experiential learning business. It was a marketing issue. We were not communicating our point of differentiation. So we look at that a lot through social media, through Google, Google comments. Like, our team is tracking that, and I have reports every single Monday afternoon that I can click in and I can see per cafe what people are saying about us. And what I'm most excited to see is how much it is spiked, that people understand that we are a business that's for students and by students, right? So having social media, having this data at our fingertips, readily 24/7, real time, has been massively helpful to make sure that we're being who we actually are.
Thank you. Just a few more questions before we move on to a leadership category. Michelle, what makes a brand admirable? What makes a brand admirable?
For me, it's really about kind of the brand promise, if you will. So what's the experience you're seeing? How does the brand make you feel? I will tell you a quick story from my mother. Okay, she's in her 80s. She called me a couple weeks ago and she said, Michelle, I got this package in the mail. I'm like, okay. She's like, it was beautiful. She said it was this big box. I didn't know it was arriving. It was wrapped exquisitely. You have to know my mother. Mother's like not someone who would say this to me. She opened it up and it was a gift from American Express. She had been a client for 50 years and they sent her this gorgeous cashmere wool blanket, and it was wrapped, beautiful. And it had a letter thanking her for a business, and it had some old advertisements from American Express, like to kind of be nostalgic. She not only called me with this, when I went to visit her, she pulled it out to show it to me. That to me is something that's admirable. It's what made her feel, what that memories evoked, and that to me is like, if you can be so lucky to be the marketing person at that brand, you've striked like that special secret sauce. I also like when they like your people.
Thank you. Angel, how do you go about creating brand personas when building your brand?
We talked earlier about data, and I think that's an important source. And there's many different types of data to use. So part of it is really looking at some of the consumer feedback, the perception of the brand, while also, similar to what Nick was saying, the idea of also being true to what your brand stands for. Being able to marry the two, the insights to what you're hearing from the consumer, while also staying true to your own brand identity. And for many of the brands that L'Oreal has that have been around for years, being able to marry the two, there's a beautiful art and science to that when you are able to do that, you have a lot of longevity, and you have the ability to build relationships with consumers that might be your mother-in-law, all the way to all of you out here, and even I think of my own daughters who are maybe even going to be here one day, and to be able to like talk along the spectrum to any of those different consumers and be relatable. I think that's important. One other topic I'll bring up, and that brands really need to be tapped into, is the multiple layers of diversity. It's not just a homogenous group of people that you're always talking to. The ability to be personalized, for consumers to see themselves in your brand marketing is truly important. And that's why in some cases where brands don't get it right, you all will take to social media and let them know. And we've seen that. And we're very careful to make sure as a company to be very, very mindful of that and reflect the beautiful diversity of the people that are consuming our products every day. So I think that's also very important.
You must have looked at my questions because you set me up on social media for Adam. Adam, storytelling plays a huge role in marketing. Is it really storytelling or story asking?
I mean, that's a good question. I think that also I want to say, yeah, there's a lot of social media trolls out there. We get it every single post that we put out. There's somebody saying something negative. So you got to, take that a little bit with a grain of salt. But I think storytelling is almost everything for a brand, for a product, for even an individual. Like, they have to characterize themselves and build their own brand in a certain way. So whenever we have a specific project, we try to localize that. We always like to say that we like to be the local face to a global brand. So when we go somewhere and we do an event, we try to be credible with local partners that are there. We try to work with the local media. We try to tie to the local traditions. All of these things matter, and the consumer sees it, they feel it, and then that consumer, kind of like your mother or your mother-in-law, they feel heard. They feel like you get them. And at that point, you take that brand love, and hopefully it does translate into brand love.
Super. Last question on branding before I move to leadership. And Nick, this is for you. What trends in the branding world are most important for our students to keep up with and learn before they graduate? What are the current trends they should be focused on?
So I'm going to answer this probably more from the lens of a founder perspective of a business than maybe a marketer or brander. And I say that is, Saxby's has 1,400 people in the company. 60 of us sit at the corporate office. So anyone who's at the corporate office or any of our student CEOs goes through an interview process with me at the end. The decision's generally been made before they get to me, but I'm sort of checking from a culture perspective, right? So I'm going to answer this from a founder perspective. I think that if you hear L'Oreal, 100-year-old business, Red Bull, one of the most famous businesses in the world, trying to get local, trying to be humanized, I think what we're looking for from a marketer are people who understand and love the essence of what the brand stands for. And you don't have to just be a founder. You could interview for Alexis, our student CEO at Saxby's, who's more important than I am at Saxby's. She's going to look for people who are a culture fit, who see working at Saxby's as more than making matchas and grilled cheese sandwiches, right? We feel like we're making a difference in people's lives. That's the level of excitement. And so if you graduate from Penn State and you have a marketing degree, the people you're interviewing with already know you're smart. They already know you'll do the work. They already know that you probably associate well with other people. You've got the full package. But will you be a great marketer at that company? What is it about that brand, that organization, that makes you want to work there versus there or there? That's how decisions are going to be made, and that's ultimately where you're going to find that stickiness. Adam, working for Red Bull is a college student 18 years ago, and staying there in the leadership role he's in now, that's what successful businesses look like, right? Like, they took a chance on him and said, this guy will love our brand, be a leader and a steward of our brand, and it's worked out great for him, and it's great out work for Red Bull. It works for every company if you can humanize yourself and get a love and a passion for what that company stands for.
Well, another segue into the next category. Enough with the easy questions, right? Let's get some hard questions. And this first question, I would like all the panelists to answer. Michelle, what makes great leadership?
To me, it's all about the people. So I'll go back to what you're hearing here. And if you're going to be a great leader, it's about being curious and asking questions of your team, of your customers, of your target customers. And then it's about trying to, I will say in many ways, mentor and lead. It isn't about micromanagement to me. So I'll give a simple answer and stick with that for now.
Angel?
I used a word earlier, and I'll use it again, humility. I think the best leaders know that the best ideas don't come from them. They come from all different people, from all different backgrounds, and a willingness to lean in and tap into that, to connect with the different members of your team. For instance, for me, I have to meet with every member of my team at least once a month. And it gives me an opportunity not just to check in, make sure the culture's being what it should, but also to learn. I make it a point to tell them they're the rock stars that make it happen. I get the privilege to support their growth, to be able to learn alongside them. And there are points where I will say there is decisiveness that is needed in leadership as well. It's part of the reason you're given the keys to the car when you're a leader, is because you've proven to be decisive. But I think coupled with humility, it really is that kind of magic sauce to great leadership.
Super. Adam?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stakeholders that every company and leader has. You have obviously your customers, you have your partners, but your employees, I believe, are the most important stakeholder, and you have to invest in them. You have to, at the simplest level, you have to just be like a real, authentic individual and treat people like real, authentic individuals. You have to care about them. You have to care about their development, their growth. What one person wants on your team is probably different what the other 32 want. So you have to understand them to that correct level, and that's, believe me, all of us, all of you someday, when you have these positions, you're pulled in so many directions. But you have to make that time to understand your people to enough, because when somebody feels valued by their leader, they tend to be a much more engaged, stronger employee, and somebody that then hopefully becomes a good leader on your team in the future.
Nick?
Can I add briefly? I love this. I get this. This is the number one question I'm asked by student CEOs interviewing at Saxby's is, what makes a great leader? We're a leadership development company. We're creating the leaders and entrepreneurs of tomorrow. We're the finishing school to the classroom experience. So I love getting this question. Be a real person, be humble, be authentic and true to yourself. The one thing I would add is great leaders. If you look at someone like Corey, if you look at someone like Timmy and everyone who's sitting up here, it's not sexy, but consistency. Great leaders are incredibly consistent. You know when you have professors or teachers or parents or people you work for who have good days and bad days, and you show up saying, which person am I going to get today? Those are not good people to work for. But if you can be consistent, and guess who controls their consistency? You do. You control whether you're consistent. You control whether you're on time, whether you have the right temperament and mentality to your people. And if you combine consistency with humility and authenticity, you're going to be a really, really great leader.
Thank you. The next question is for everybody, but we're going to work in reverse order. So it's back to Nick again. Nick, looking back, what was the one most unexpected lesson you learned early in your career?
I guess I'll build off of this, right? I made myself a CEO. I didn't earn it. I literally started a company, I called it Saxby's, and I made myself a name tag that said CEO. And I was somewhat young, I was 25 years old, and I thought, because I didn't do what you guys are doing as students, I didn't go to panels, I didn't listen to people tell their war stories and their mistakes, so I thought at 25, who I knew nothing about anything, I thought that because I bestowed CEO on myself, I needed to act like I knew everything. So I shudder to think how bad of a leader I was back then, because I had to pretend I knew everything. I think now I scare people who work at Saxby's, at how little I actually know. Like I've heard people say, they're like, Nick, I'm surprised you admit how many times you don't know anything. And I'm like, maybe I should admit that a little bit less. But I realize I hire a lot of really smart people at Saxby's who are experts, far smarter, far more capable and experienced than I am. So that was probably the biggest mistake I made as a leader, was not being humble and not realizing that I'm a servant leader there to serve leaders in the company who know what they're doing better than I do.
Thank you. Adam?
I actually remember a very vivid moment. So when I became a full-time employee at Red Bull, I was 22, and I had a team of 15. I had no idea how to manage people, and I'm the same age as them, essentially. So the program was running a little bit loose, and one of my kind of mentors at the company said, hey, Adam, people like rules. Give them rules. And what I've learned over the years is you could exchange the word rules with structure. People do need structure. They need direction. They need to be kind of put into a lane where they say, okay, if I do these things, I will reach the goal. And I try to give my team a lot of autonomy. I am absolutely not an advocate for micromanaging. I think that takes away from any good employee, but I do think you have to put the guardrails in place so that people can work within them and get to the goal on their own time.
Boy, I would love to comment, but I'm just moderating. Angel?
I'm going to take a little bit of a different spin on this, more of a personal perspective on a lesson that I learned. I'll just say, don't chase titles. And when I say titles, I mean like VP of this, senior manager of that, right? Certain sectors of the marketing space throw around titles, will give people titles left and right. What I would encourage you to do is think about what is the opportunity that's going to give you the chance to grow. Because sometimes it may mean you get knocked down in a title. But whatever you take that leap, that might be the big bet that helps you to grow and really propel you in the future. Case in point for me, when I was on the media agency side, I had sort of risen through the ranks and was a senior director, senior partner, blah, blah, blah. But the work that I was doing at that point was really starting to burn me out. And I also realized, similar to Nick, how little I really knew of what was happening with the clients, the people that were actually making the products that my company was helping to place ads, how little I really knew about their business, about the dynamics of true marketing. And I took a big bet, moved to a company, and went from senior director, senior partner to a lowly manager title. But I will say that move helped me really learn and grow in a way that I may not have if I had just stayed there being in an elevated role, because I will tell you, the higher you go from a title, the less willing some people are are going to give you that chance to grow. So you need to almost take a bet on yourself sometimes and say, you know what, take a bet, take the plunge. Don't just chase a title, but chase the opportunity that you think is going to be best for yourself, give you a chance to grow, and give you the chance to learn.
Great advice.
Before I ask Michelle, sometimes I go off course. I'm going to respond to that. It can be very lonely at the top sometimes. Okay, Michelle, what's the unexpected lesson?
That could be a whole topic.
Yes.
But I would say the phone doesn't ring by itself. And what I mean by that for all of you, even though you could say the phone doesn't text you by itself, we could make it something more relevant. When I was first started working, I had kind of a sales biz dev role, and we didn't really have a marketing department. And we'd sold in this big idea to an advertiser, which happened to be Maytag, and it was a concert tour with Kenny Chesney. Anyone like Kenny Chesney? Okay, me too. I didn't like country music at the time, but I do now. So I sold it in, and I can tell you that funny story, but the kicker was when we were ready to start organizing this, it was a 7-city tour, we didn't really have a marketing department. So I just started organizing it. And so I literally shifted my job to do this full time, and I almost had no choice. This was my client. But what I realized is, boy, I really enjoyed marketing more than the sales. I also was on the front line of doing it. And if I waited for someone to say, oh, Michelle, would you like to do this? Crickets. They wouldn't have sent me to do that. They would have found someone else. So I stepped in and did it, ended up running 7 cities. I was actually recruited because the first event was so successful, which I can't believe. They wanted me to take over another tour. Needless to say, I didn't do that. I stayed in marketing. But you've got to say, if you want to do it, raise your hand, ask to be involved, take on an extra project, make that phone call.
Super. Let's move on to a really important category that we have. Folks here are looking to build their career in career advice and development. And Meg and Jen, no disrespect to you, no disrespect in the question that I'm going to ask, but we'll start with Michelle. It's for all of you. What advice can you give these students that they will not learn in class? What advice would have you liked to have when you were here?
I did do this. I will say, get involved. Be in this Prime, be in PMSA, be in Ultimate Frisbee Club. Whatever strikes your interest, get involved. Try, learn, be a leader. So that to me is my number one advice for you. The other thing I would say, which I was afraid to do at that time, or didn't do it as much, network. That is how you will find your job. That's how you will find your next job. That is you'll find your next opportunity. And I'm not saying switch companies. It could be working for one of these companies and you get to move to a new role. But always be learning and always be thinking that way.
Angel, you're thinking.
I am. It's going to be hard to top that. I would build on the networking point because I think it's very important. Yes, you could come hat in hand asking for a job, but also knowing that is the motivation. You want a good job, you want to be able to be successful. Come to a networking opportunity, maybe even practice right after this with us. Tell us what you're doing. Come to it with a case study or an example of how you've actually led, how you've taken initiative, how you've been consistent. Talk to us about the things you're learning and what sparks your interest. Yes, definitely ask us questions, definitely learn, but also contribute. I think that's important with networking because a lot of times it may come off as a one-way street where you're expecting to get something from us, but at the same time, we have a lot to learn from you, and coming with something in hand is a lot better of a conversation than coming sort of hat in hand, if that makes sense.
Go, Adam.
A lot of great companies recruit at Penn State, but those aren't the only companies that you have to work for. Also, it doesn't have to be a Fortune 500 company. I mean, Red Bull did not recruit here. I never did an internship when I was here. Instead, I made the choice to become a motocross instructor, and I traveled the entire United States between my junior and senior year in the summer. And that taught me so much because I was working, first of all, with people of all different ages and skill sets. I was literally with the owner of this company, which is essentially a small business. And I learned more that summer than I think I probably would have as one of 500 interns somewhere in New York City. And there's nothing wrong with being an intern in New York City. I'm just saying, don't let that be the only thing that is your North Star and thinking to yourself, like, this is the dream company, this is the dream job. You're way too young. Also, try, personal advice, this could be different for everyone, but a lot of times students or young employees at Red Bull will come to me and they'll say, in 10 years I want to do this. I don't know how you can know what is going to be in 10 years. 2 to 3 years is my window. That's what I look at personally, and I would advise, like, try to consider what's right in front of you before you get too far down the line, because in 2019 we didn't expect COVID to happen. There's a lot of things that have happened in the last few years we didn't expect to happen that's changed the course of, you know, our own lives or other professional things. So, long-winded way of saying, like, you can get a ton of experience as a young person in an area that may not seem obvious right now. But yeah, you got to go look for it a little bit.
Case in point, Adam, I graduated with an accounting degree and a minor in quantitative business analysis, and now I'm faking it in marketing. Imagine that. Nick?
Love this question. This is maybe the biggest point of change and focus in higher ed in the last 50 years. I, for one, think there's far too much criticism and pressure and expectation put onto institutions of higher education to fully and holistically prepare young people for every single possible career. And what I mean by that is employers have to be meeting education institutions at least halfway. Because we're at a place now, you know, you have all this pressure on higher ed. You also have the advent of AI, which might change the economy more than anything in certainly all of your lifetimes. And guess what? AI is going to do the technical, quantitative things better than any single person sitting in this room. So what are employers going to look for? They're going to look for people that are emotionally intelligent, that are resilient, that are culturally agile. They can take feedback, they can work well with others, they can learn things on their feet, they can be humble, make mistakes, pick themselves up. And you have the best professors there are. You can't go and learn from better professors. You can't teach those skills in a classroom. But if you can go learn from Professor Copeland and all the other professors in this room and do well and get good grades, coupled with working for big companies, small companies, New York City or Kansas or anywhere in between, and exhibit that you are emotionally intelligent, exhibit that you are resilient, you will forever be employed at great places that value well, and you will feel empowered by the work that you do.
Go for
I
it.
just would add one quick thing. Don't be afraid to get a job, like a ice cream shop, the coffee shop, the swim instructor. If you can get a sexy internship, awesome. Go work for Pepsi or Coke or whatever you can get. But don't be afraid to have real live work experience. Be a waitress. That will teach you people skills and time management, all kinds of things. So if it doesn't come together to whatever internship you want to have next summer, feel free to dive into whatever you're going to have opportunity in front of you.
Well, I was going to start with Nikki again. I have one more question before we do some summary. And along that line, there's turbulent times right now. Data report on jobs changes all the time. I get asked a lot of questions, and the students probably will tonight. What's the best way for students to look for a job and look impressive? All of you will answer this question.
My favorite tip I will say, and my mentees here today, and I think we talked about this, is informational interviews. And what I mean by that is you're going to go reach out to someone in a role that might interest you or a company that might interest you. You're going to ask them about what they do, how they got there, what their challenges are, and you want to talk to them about what they're doing. It's not about, do you have a job opening? And what's nice about that is you're going to learn, and you tell them a little about yourself. This is what I'm thinking about doing. Here's a little of my experience. Is that something you'd be interested in? And because the more you can learn about what someone's doing, the more you can say, this is a fit for me, or I don't want to do that. And that's very good to know ahead before you take that job. And so this is long before you even get a job. This is now, talking about your friend's parents, one of us, a former, a student maybe who's working in a new job. But look up informational interviews.
Angel?
One thing I've heard, and it's probably a trite saying at this point, and I don't know, you're right. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I've heard it said, and I think it's prudent advice, AI is not going to take over your job. Somebody who knows AI will. And that's what I'm being told. And so for me, I'm going back to school by learning how to work with AI, how AI is actually helping me work smarter, not harder. Part of it is because of the pressure I've had to face by working at a company the size of ours, the speed that's happening. At some point, you as an individual, even as a team, can't keep up. And so AI is a valuable resource now. It's not this necessarily looming enemy that maybe the motion pictures make it, and I just said motion pictures, so that sounds funny, but like movies, shows, streaming things, right? All of that. It's a really good opportunity, and it really is going to democratize skill and expertise. You have the opportunity to be a leader in the space, regardless of how young you are. If you learn how to do it, practice it now. Don't cheat. Don't use it in the way you're not supposed to use it in school, right, professors? But learn how to use it to make your schedule more efficient, how to get recommendations, even questions to ask when you're having informational interviews. You can use AI to help fuel your own creativity, and I think that's going to be important as you look at your career. What companies like mine and many of ours are looking for is the human touch, but also someone who has and is starting to cut their teeth on how to use AI effectively. I think that's going to be really important.
Super. Good answer. Adam, follow that.
Yeah, that's tough. I would say engage with the brand and the product if it's a type of brand and product you can engage with. In my situation with Red Bull, we don't have a shortage of people applying to our marketing roles, but a lot of times we get to an interview and you start to ask the person, how have you engaged with the brand? How have you engaged with the product? Have you been to our events before? Do you follow our athletes? Who's your favorite athlete? Do you drink the product? The answer is no, not really. No, I've never been to one, this and that. I want people that are going to bring value, passion to my team and this company. So yes, my job can give you a lot of value, but you have to show that you're going to give me value. You have to show that you care about what we're doing and what our mission is. It's not just about researching a company, and I know that not every company you can do this with, but with a consumer packaged good that costs a couple dollars, you absolutely can. Yeah, I think it would be different for maybe some of them up here, but maybe you can resonate with that as well.
Nick?
So briefly, to answer your question very specifically, Timmy, which is like, if you're a student trying to enter the workforce, how do you stand out? Don't be afraid and lean into doing the work that the company actually does. I can't tell you how many times we get resumes from college students or recent graduates being like, I just want any job in the corporate office. That resume gets deleted because our company, my office is a cost center. We make no money at our headquarters. We lose money. This is where our business differentiates. This is where we sell product. This is where we make profit. This is where we change people's lives. Therefore, people who are new to the workforce and are unknown to Saxby's, if you can't and don't want to do this, you have next to no value for us at the corporate level. So every single person at Saxby's, we have an entire team of PhDs in our company, right? So they went to school, great schools, got a PhD, were in the classroom, one of the most illustrious jobs you can get. They now work at Saxby's. Guess where they started? in the cafes. Their first 2 weeks were working in the cafes, and every 6 months, they go back into the cafes and work shifts. So the people who are willing to sling the cans, the people who are willing, you'll hear this in pharmaceuticals, carry the bag, go into doctor's offices, they rise up and they get to the top positions because that job is not too low for them. It's the essence of the difference of what that company means.
Thank you. We have like 4 or 5 minutes left, and the last question, I'm going to work backwards. What do you wish to share that we didn't cover today in any one of the categories, or what's on your mind that you could give advice to these students? I'd like each one of you to take no more than 1 minute, because we have 5 minutes left, and Nick, we're going to start with you.
Thank you. I think I've shared everything I know at this point, Timmy. What's one thing I'd like to share? I'd just like to reiterate sort of the central theme of what I said, and what I sort of just finished on right there is companies want people, probably always, but I'm not a business historian. I understand today companies want employees, they want team members who care about what the business stands for. Consumers are buying from businesses that they care about, so the people who are working in those companies should care even more than the consumers. Right, so spraying and praying, just throwing out your resume to a lot of places, great companies can see that. They can see right through it. But Federica is here somewhere. I think she had an amazing internship with TikTok this summer. I could only imagine, I wish I could sit in that interview process with you. I could only imagine how hard it is to get an internship at TikTok. Everyone wants an internship at TikTok. But she, I'm sure, stood out in that interview process of how she knew the product, how they could count on her, how she was reliable, resilient, smart. She has Penn State SMEAL on her resume. That's what the great companies are looking for, is people who embody and love and will make a difference in their companies.
You held to the time a little bit. Adam?
There's two things that I look for when I'm identifying talent, and one is strong character, the other is tolerance for effort. And I think this generation, like you all and others your age, there's kind of like a stigma right now that like young people don't want to work. I don't believe that. Obviously no one at Penn State falls into that, I know, but tolerance for effort is a real thing. And when I speak to my team, I kind of go after 3 things that any leader could have a huge list. But what I say to my team is be an owner, be adaptable, and be a great teammate. If you do those 3 things, everything else should fall into place. You have to own your work. I want people to be accountable. I want them to be responsible for those things. Obviously, the world changes, life changes, projects change. You have to adapt. If you aren't able to adapt, if things throw you kind of for a loop every time something changes, that will be something you need to overcome. Because in the business world, you have to adapt. It happens all the time. And then last, just be a great teammate. Because why would you want to work somewhere with teammates that wouldn't help you? Help your teammate. Reach across the aisle, reach across the desk, make relationships, support them. They'll support you. That's the culture that you want to work in.
Great answer. Angel?
At L'Oreal, we talk about bringing your authentic self to work. And I really like the points that were raised during the course of the panel about culture and fit. And part of what I think is really important for that is be your authentic self. Really understand what truly matters to you, what's most important, and lead with that. Don't hide it, because you can maybe interview really well, get your foot in the door, and make a mess because you didn't lead with your authentic self. So for instance, for me, one thing that's very important is my spiritual growth. I lead with that. I don't hide it and put it in the closet. I lead with that because it's important that my team knows where I'm coming from, what's driving some of my thinking. So I think that's an important thing for you all to think as you're, tempted to put the face on or the mask on in an interview, or as you're considering internship. Don't do that. Really learn, grow. What's important to you now may not be important to you later, but lead with that. And the second thing is mental health. That's another thing I didn't hear talked about when I was in school here in class. It's very important. It helps clear a lot of the fog that we have to deal with every day. So, You know, I know we're not in a panel talking about that in particular, but it is very important because you're going to be using this at work, and it's important that it's in the best shape it can be. So one other thing that I think is very important.
Thank you. And we'll wrap it with Michelle.
You all are marketers already, and you are here taking classes, and this is your time to experiment. So whether that it is you're planning an event like some of the team in the back did, that's part of being a marketer. You're marketing yourself and your own brand. What are you posting on LinkedIn? What are you posting on Instagram? Because if your employer will actually see that, just so you know. Or gosh, let's say you did plan that event and you're like, I hated that. That was not fun for me. But I really like looking at all the numbers and what gosh, I could pull together data, that might be interesting. So this is the time to practice and try because it will help you with your next step. So be a marketer today. You're in marketing. You've got fabulous professors to work with and all the activities you can to give it a try.
You all were terrific. It was great. Really good. Oh, okay, Federica, I think we have 30 minutes, right, for Q&A? Okay, who's got the first question? Remember what the 4 protocols are.
I think I'll need to be reminded.
Your name, where you're from, your favorite song, and who your question is directed to.
So, my name is Nikki. I am a student. I'm from King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. There we go. I just wanted to be able to do that again. It's not working? Wait.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hello. There we go. Hello. Can you hear me? Hi, my name is Nikki. I am a third-year marketing student from King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. Favorite song, I Love Anything by Bob Dylan. And I'm going to direct my question to Angel. Actually on the topic of mental health, since you just talked about that, and that was really cool you mentioned it. Do you have a specific practice that you implement to maintain a healthy work-life balance? That's it, yeah.
So there's no secret sauce. For everybody, I think it's different. And so whatever works for me may not work for you. I'll just preface it by saying that. I'll also preface it by saying I'm still learning. This is an area I'm still growing in. I think there's certain aspects of like mindfulness and moments, really being present, that are very important. I'm learning a lot from my wife about that. And and I think especially the cool blessing in disguise that work can be is that it's a pressure cooker that forces you to either sink or swim. And those that thrive find those tools to be able to do that throughout the day. One thing for me, I try to religiously every day at like noon take my hour lunch. They're paying me to do that. Take it, right? Take that moment to breathe, eat, whatever. That's important. So that's another aspect. I think therapy is important, and so that is something else that's important to me as well. I think it helps, and it's something that's good to do before there's just an emergency to do it. It's good as it's almost like medicine or exercise. Better to do it, as like growth versus like, whoa, when something bad happens, it's still good, but yeah, just something there.
Work-life balance is really hard, and I try to work on that still every day. It's a very good point. Next question. Okay.
So I'm Paul Martin. I'm from Reading, Pennsylvania. My favorite song right now, I'd currently say, is With You by Ricochet. It's a song that I wrote for my sister's wedding. So my question is directed to Nick. As like an entrepreneur myself, YouTuber, content creator, artist, writing my own music, what is the best way to go about recruiting people to help you achieve your vision?
It's a great question. And so you wrote a song and you performed at your sister's wedding?
I wrote it and then it played at my sister, like I dedicated it to her at the wedding.
It's impressive.
And then I made a video out of it for YouTube, like a music video.
I'd love to see it. Shoot me a note afterwards. I'd love to see it. So great question. Again, whether you're a founder of a business or you're a steward of a business, every business stands for its mission and its values. And so if you've already started a business, you're a YouTuber, you're an artist, you're doing lots of things, the easiest person to hire and the most important you'll ever hire is the next one. Right? That person can't be hired simply because his or her resume or because they're your next door neighbor. You have to share openly and authentically what your vision is, the values that you have, that you're committing to bring every single day, and you hold that person to the same standard. And if you have success with that first one, you'll get lucky and be able to get a third one. If you fail with that second one, you may never get that opportunity again. You have to share openly about what your values are, what it is you're accomplishing for, because ultimately, people work for people. They don't work for organizations, right? They want to know that they're working for a good person who's motivated, who's going to do things the right way, and you will stay with them or they will follow them to other careers. You have the opportunity right now to share openly. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with the people who want to join your entity or your organization, and I can't wait to see what comes from it.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi. My name is Brenna. I'm a third-year marketing student from Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, and my favorite song right now is Romeo by Conan Gray. And then I was wondering, someone said that one of the keys to marketing is truly love your brand. So I was wondering, what does that look like in practice for either you as a person or your company? Thank you.
Adam, I think that's you when we talked about brand love and can love.
Oh, was that for me?
It is now.
So the question is, how do you leverage the people that love your brand? Well, the people that love your brand are usually the ones that spend the most money on your product. These are the most important customers you want to retain. So every company usually has like a retain and a gain strategy. And in the funnel or the leaky bucket as it calls, you'll lose users, but you never want to lose your heaviest users because that's a very valuable loser. So when you have switching that happens, like in an industry like us, you have Celsius in the coolers here because it's a Pepsi school. So there's a good chance that a lot of you drink multiple different energy drink brands if you drink energy drinks at all. So there's a switching behavior. So what creates that loyalty, whatever that is that we do that works, builds the relevance for that brand and can love for that person, we have to be true to that person. We have to kind of stay consistent, like Nick said earlier, as a brand. So every company wants to grow, wants to bring in new users. Sometimes we've seen this with brands maybe go too far in a direction where they alienate their base and their heavy users. You have to be careful. This is a very delicate kind of balancing act that I'm sure all of us can relate to up here. Good question. Thank you.
I want to add one example because it's specifically love. So when I was at Fresh Direct, some of you may know Fresh Direct. It's an e-commerce grocer that's kind of based in the New York tri-state area. And we knew we needed to do more for our core customers. And so everyone knows the holiday Valentine's Day, right? And if you're in the grocery or the retail business, it's maybe 1 week of sales, right? Remember to buy roses or chocolates or something. So we said, all right, February, let's make it the month of love, 28 days. Now, if you're a retailer, that's a big deal, right? But if you're a customer and we can give you 28 days of love, that's kind of cool and exciting. So we literally made it almost like an advent calendar. So you came to the e-commerce experience and every day there was something different happening. yes, we had the perfect dinner, filet mignon and lobster, right? So at a surf and turf. But we also had love your baby. Who doesn't love your baby? Love your pet. Who doesn't love your pet, right? And so we made it be fun. We even sent our customers love notes in their grocery delivery. And so we really thought about how can we thank our customers? How can you build love in a way that made sense for our business, but also a way that was really great to highlight our brand partners. So when I think about love, I always think of that little promotion we did, which they carried on and I may still be doing.
Next question. Okay.
Hello. Okay. Hi, my name is Alicia. I'm from Pittsburgh, PA, and I'm an accounting and finance major. And I will fully admit I don't really listen to songs, but if I have one to note, maybe it'll be Let It Go by Frozen. That's my first song that I know the lyrics to. Okay, so my question is catered for Nick. You heavily emphasized humility as part of your leadership. So at what point or how do you balance humility while building trust for your employees and clients or customers?
Yeah, great question. And I'm like you, I am a music idiot. Like I barely know anything. I've known almost none of the songs that have been mentioned so far, so I can feel you on that. With humility, I mean, I think, the first is, Saxby's is not a huge company, right? But 1,400 people, 35 different campuses that we're on. I think the first thing is to be present. Like I don't have an office, right? If you go to my office, I sit out in the open or I sit in a conference room every once in a while, and I spend as much of my time, probably 30% of my time in our cafes meeting our team members, right? So I think the first thing is to be present, right? Get out of the office, get out of like your silo or wherever it is that you think you belong as a leader, so get out there. The second thing is to like share your story, right? I love doing this. I'm honored to have done this for the 5th time, right? To go and humanize my business and to hear what my clients or my customers might be thinking, my future employees might be thinking. Like, I think this is a really, really important thing. And then to create a culture where this is the standard, right? I didn't know to write a mission statement or to write values. We ran Saxby's for 5 years. I had someone pull me aside saying, you have something special in your business, but if you don't define it, create a foundation around it, it will just sort of fall apart. Every company has a culture, and if you don't think you have one, you have a bad one. And so he helped me formalize our mission and core values. And I remember the thing he said is, if you as the CEO, if you as the leader, and this is Nick as the CEO of Saxby's, or Alexis, the CEO of Saxby's Penn State, if you don't live and breathe the mission core values 24/7, 365, nobody else will. Right? So it's like, well, we might as well write values that I believe in, that I hope I can hold myself to every single day. And here we are many, many years later, and I walk into these cafes, people are like, you must be having sleepless nights because you've got 18 to 22-year-olds running their own $1 million business, managing 60 of their peers in the middle of their business building. I'm like, I sleep like a baby. Because our culture stands for itself. The talent we attract, the way that they're empowered, and the love that they have for what we do makes them great.
Thank you. Next question. Second row down here. 2 second rows.
Hi, I'm Mary. I'm currently a
No.
Mary, here you go.
Thank you. I'm a 3rd-year marketing student. I'm from Wilmington, Delaware, and my favorite song is Neon by John Mayer. And my question is, how do I overcome the feeling of being behind or that I'm not doing enough to advance my career as a student right now?
Who would you like to answer that question?
Adam, maybe because he talked about pressure for getting an internship.
Do you feel this way because you're comparing yourself to your peers here at Penn State?
A little bit, yeah. at times.
My advice would be focus on yourself. You know, think about what you have that is going to set yourself apart. It doesn't have to be GPA. It doesn't have to be the school name either. Everyone's going to have that in this room. But where you want to go, what have you done to engage with that environment, that thing? I had a conversation a couple of years ago with a student, and they talked about wanting to be in sports marketing at Red Bull one day. And I asked them, I said, what have you done in that world? Like, what makes you somebody that I would want to put on my team? They told me that they liked surfing. And I said to them, I said, where do you live? They lived in New Jersey. I said, are you a part of anything out there? And she said, I don't think that anything exists. And I said, go start it. Go start something. It doesn't matter if there's 4 of you out there surfing. Just start something, create it. That's what I want to talk about in an interview. That's the only thing that I'll look at, because really, for me, maybe hold your ears, admin team, GPA doesn't matter for me. Even the school you went to doesn't matter. Even the major usually doesn't really matter. We have engineers as marketers right now. I look for what that person does, what value they can bring, and how in that moment, that half an hour, 1 hour, 90 minutes that I have to speak with them, what's different about them? So don't be stressed. I know all of you here have the same school, like a very similar looking diploma, but I'm sure there's things that'll set you apart.
Mary, if I could just add as well, I think you're halfway to winning the battle by being this honest. Every single person in here is feeling the same thing. Like, I'm getting major deja vu right now, hearing you ask that question. When I was your age, a long time ago, A, I felt that way, and B, I wasn't brave enough to do what you just did. And then the second thing is, you can't win a race that you don't know you're running. Be honest with yourself, put the earmuffs on, literally or figuratively, and figure out what it is that you want to do, what makes you happy and excites you and makes your heart race, and compare yourself to yourself and how you're doing on that plan, not anybody else. Be honest with yourself and win that race.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to continue the conversation as well if you want to keep doing it after this and forever.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. I think we had a question Here we go.
Hello, my name is Peter. I'm from China. My favorite song right now is Streetcar by Daniel Caesar. That's the one song that sort of eased the pain of a lot of nights that get me through days and night. And then I felt like one thing that would bring up a lot tonight would be authentic. And I have this question for Adam that how to be someone who is like authentic, and then for someone who is not so much like a team player who is a bit shy, how do you sort of train yourself into someone who is more authentic and then open-minded or like willing to talk yourself with your coworkers or peers?
That's such a good question. I'm going to give a little bit of an answer, but then I'm going to give it to Angel because he was talking, he mentioned a lot of really good things earlier on this, so I think he's a expert at this area. You, maybe even some of us up here, we may seem like extroverts. I am not an extrovert. I am absolutely introverted if I had to pick binary one or the other. However, I have built over time through the experience and the things that I've done, a level of confidence that I have in myself to do the things. And a lot of that confidence, it comes from the repetitions of doing the job, of studying, of whatever it may be. So I look at it as I'm only going to put myself in a situation where I'm going to be confident that I can maybe not win, but at least perform at the level that I'm going to be happy of. You don't have to be an extroverted person. You don't have to be, the person that runs around the office, high-fiving everybody. I do think you still can be a great teammate, even if you aren't somebody that's, technically extroverted. But I do want to give, maybe Angel, do you have something for?
Yeah, and that was really nice. Thank you. I'm also an introvert by nature, and it is a learned skill. It is, and I'm still learning. One of the things that this institution affords you, in addition to a great education, is the ability to build relationships and community with people from all over the world, right? That, I can tell you fairly unequivocally, is one of the biggest things I learned here that has contributed to my success. I'm still reaping the benefits of being treasurer, president of the National Hispanic Business Society or Association years ago, because I learned how to work with people toward an endeavor, doing a Dress for Success event for the first time. I had never done that before. I was working with people that were from all over the country and working with them towards something. And this wasn't just passing an economics class or an accounting class, but it was learning how to talk to people. And that is something that's important to practice. I think that's where, to your question earlier, that's an opportunity where you don't have to fall behind. You can always build your network, build your relationship, learn how to talk, because when you're sitting where we're sitting, you're going to be doing the same thing. I don't, or at least I think so. I know we don't know what's going to happen in 10 years. Maybe I'm talking to AI, but I'm pretty sure you're still going to be talking to people about AI. And so knowing how to do that with different personalities, different backgrounds, especially for a company like L'Oreal, which is a global company, it's crucial, absolutely crucial.
Super. Okay, one more question. Who wants to wrap it? Oh God, we have 3 more. Okay. We have time, Federica, for a couple more questions? No? Yes? 2 more.
Hello. Hi, my name's Abby Roniger Alarcon, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and my favorite song right now is Karma Police by Radiohead. My question was for Angel. You mentioned a lot about data right now and how that's rising, but in a field like marketing that's very creative heavy, how do you mix numbers with ideas?
Very good question. One, build on your question, or I'll question your hypothesis. You said that marketing is creative driven. I would say it's actually very data driven, primarily. There's a lot of testing that even goes into creative advertising. Getting the messaging out there, optimizing between which ad worked the best, getting that feedback loop is crucial, absolutely important to what we do. And so I think data will, I don't know if it'll ever replace good storytelling. I think there is still value to, you know, those creative agency people doing storyboards, talking about which celebrity or ambassador they want for their brand and having a hunch. I think there's still a role for that. But more than ever before, most of the iceberg is actually data. And I think that's important for all of you to really not be afraid of. I mentioned I'm an introvert. I'm not a math guy. I didn't do very well, sorry, in some of those more math-driven classes. But I've had to learn and grow into learning how to work with big data, leaning on and being educated by team members on how to work with big data. And ultimately, this is the creative piece, how to tell a story with data. Because data for data's sake is just noise. But to actually understand it and synthesize it and get to an action that can be taken, that's where the magic is. And so there is like this, and there's a term that our chief media officer coined, math and magic. The mix of both of those is absolutely crucial to what we do.
Thank you.
Great answer. Okay, I think we had another question over here. Another question? Yeah, we did. Hang on.
Okay. Hi, I'm Neil. I'm a first-year student at SMEAL right now. I'm doing marketing. I'm from Bangalore, India. And my favorite music right now is the entire soundtrack of Mamma Mia. kind of obsessed with the movie. My question is for Michelle. You told me that we should all work in different industries, get a job as a waiter, get a job as a swimming instructor. How does these experiences help you in other industries? You worked in many industries, you're working in many industries right now, but how is an experience in one helping you in the other? Or is there any example that's right now that's helping you in the other?
Well, I'm a big believer that every business needs a marketer. And so whether it is, every business also works with people. And you've got to best communicate with them, and you've got to communicate your brand. So if you are a swim instructor, right, you're going to have a whole pool full of students who you've got to learn how to communicate with. Now, I'm not going to pretend that's necessarily a direct one-to-one to some brand marketing we're talking about, but that experience of being able to engage with people, influence them, help teach them, and organize your day. Think about all the things that go into that job. Those are all life skills you're going to bring as a marketer. And that's who the people I look to hire. I think, I don't know, maybe it was Adam, I'm one of those people who I want to see what you've done here, what activities you've done, what other things you've done inside the class and outside the class. I'm thrilled if you have a 4.0, but in reality, I'm happy if you can communicate with me and figure a way to be curious and ask questions. You don't have to be an expert or an extrovert. So I think broadly about all of the experience you have. And so, for me, I might say Bollywood. If you like Bollywood music, I want to know why. And now you like Mamma Mia, I'm like, okay, I want to know why. But it's using those marketing skills of curiosity, thinking about how you're engaging with people, your customer, that will help you.
I just want to build on that. Using the swimming illustration or lifeguard illustration, how do you respond in an emergency? That is an interview question you may actually get, and it'll be like, really, an emergency in marketing? Yes, yes, they happen. How do you respond? Some of what you learn poolside could actually help slow down your thinking when you get a bad press release or an influencer goes berserk about your product in the wrong way, and you learn, how to slow down my thinking, how to problem solve, how to tap into other lifeguards, right, and work together. I think that's how a lot of that can work.
The job is problem solving. That's really what I call it creative problem solving, but you're absolutely right. Every week.
Yes, crisis management and solving problems daily is how we live our lives. I'll tell you what I learned. I learned that the questions that I come up with are nowhere as good as the 6 or 7 questions from the students here tonight, so I'll get in touch with them. Okay, the questions have been great. I think we're perfect timing, and going to turn it over to Meg. You guys were terrific on answering the questions, and students, thank you so much for those thoughtful questions.
Well, and I wanted to say thank you to all of you. My name is Meg Malloy. I'm the chair of the marketing department. I am very grateful you are all here and so engaged. I also wanted to give a special thanks to Timmy, Michelle, Angel, Adam, and Nick. Sorry, had to do that. They have provided you with an enormous amount of insights about what the future of branding looks like and also how to be best prepared for it. So with that, I am going to also offer some extra thank yous. Timmy, thank you for always being so engaged with all of us and for your tireless efforts with time and talent and finances for keeping and sustaining the branding panel. So thank you. Yeah. I also have to thank Jennifer. She did not want a call out or a shout out, but I have to. Dr. Coupland has been so tirelessly devoted to the entire Prime endeavor, from the conception to the student organization to creating a class and having that becoming part of our permanent curriculum. So thank you to you. I also wanted to thank Phil and Gary Bolno for their financial support of tonight's event, and hopefully that will continue into the future. And I also wanted to thank Red Bull, Saxby's, and L'Oreal for all of their product that is around us. So thank you very much. And with that, I will invite you to join us for refreshments. I also have to thank the entire Prime team. So this includes Federica, Paikia, Abisola, Caitlin, Tess, Emily, Kara, and Lila, and they are now going to pass out some thank you gifts.